Hi, my name is Jean-Michel Jarre, welcoming Headliner into my studio. So here we are in the cabin of the studio. I have some other rooms with lots of other keyboards and also a rehearsal room, but this is kind of cabin where for each project, I choose, for instance, from my for all my collection, some instruments dedicated for the project I'm working on. So this is this is a very interesting instrument. It's a mellotron, but it's a digital version of the mellotron done by the original mellotron team. I have two real mellotrons with the tapes, and the people who are listening to us and probably knowing what I'm talking about. But this is the digital version. It's very light and it's good for traveling. And what's amazing about it, it's very identical to the original sound without the noise and the weight. So it's quite cool. And so this is also a very interesting instrument from Korg, one of the first instruments developed by Korg. And I had this instrument a long time ago when I started, and they just redid it absolutely the perfect analog version, identical to the original one, and with no noise and working perfectly. And this is just one what we call the Moog Sub 37. After Bob Moog passed away, one of the iconic Moog of the new generation, very useful. And here you have some Eurorack modules, and I have some other in other rooms, but these are quite interesting. Is the new generation of modules. I started with the big modular Moog and modular 22 R2500, and years later, suddenly modular synthesizers became quite hot again with all the new generations. And what's interesting is you have lots of small companies and developers developing some modules, and the idea is actually to create your own system with your favorite modules, and then getting your own sounds, and that's quite exciting. This is a very interesting instrument, but developed by a French company called Expressive, and this is the Oxymore. And this is a totally revolutionary instrument. It's going to be released commercially today. It's quite and what this instrument is. Why is it so interesting? Is because each keys you can actually, depending on, okay, you have velocity, depending on you have the aftertouch, but also you can also horizontally, you can also having other sounds. So you can, for each key, you have 8 different possibilities of expression, and of course that creates something absolutely unique for, even if you are a good pianist or a good keyboard player, or if you are just exploring. It's amazing because you can actually, for each key, and if you play a chord of I don't know, 6 notes or 7 notes, yeah, it makes that for each finger you have 8 different possibilities of expression. It's absolutely crazy, absolutely amazing. And of course, it looks like a bento box, you know, like a Japanese sushi box. It's very clean, very beautiful. And this is an SSL desk, which is actually a mixture of my old days when I was using a huge SSL console. These days with those, I need less big ones, but it still have the same possibilities as the real SSL, but also linked with modern technology and the fact that you can actually, this console can be a pure analog console, but at the same time creating a dialogue with digital DAWs. This one is also an interesting keyboard, quite new also, called the C15, and it's created by one guy called Stefan Schmidt, who is one of the founder of Native Instrument, and it's fantastic instruments with two ribbon controllers, and the sound is very unique. And this has nothing to do with this, but I am using it. This is called La Voix du Luthier, and it's like it's an acoustic speaker. It's actually an acoustic resonator, and it gives you. It's like if you were putting the sound of a synthesizer into a cello, and hearing the results. So it has the kind of shape almost like a tiny vertical grand piano, you know, and the resonator creates that any kind of sound of these instruments. I choose that. It was a personal choice to use this instrument for that, and goes through this resonator, and I can record the synth with microphones, stereo mic or mono mic, and the sound is of course totally special. This is one of the this is, I would say, the Rolls Royce of Moog. Is the Moog One. One of my favorite polyphonic instruments was the Memory Moog, and I still love it. And this is the Memory Moog. I would say multiplied by 10, which is a fantastic instrument. You can do almost everything. Is almost too much, because it's each time you play with this. I mean, you can spend the rest of your life just by tweaking and exploring. It's a very interesting instrument. And this one is just there for a project. It's called the Paraphonic 505 from Roland. It's a analog instruments which I mean, just where you have kind of strings and very, it has this kind of very raw sound that has a kind of this kind of vintage, quite vintage poetic approach that I always love, and to mix with some more modern instruments is always interesting. It's like, actually, when you compose with electronic instruments, for me, it's like composing for an orchestra. You need all these kind of different timbres, strings or woodwinds or brass or percussions is offering us, and it's the same thing, actually. So for each project, these instruments I use for recently, some of them for Oxymore and some of them for the projects I'm working on at the moment.